A very good morning to you from the Bahrain Chamber, and thank you for joining us today in this webinar, which will shed light on cost optimization and productivity. My name is Aisha, and I'm very honored to be with you today, and I'm a member of the Chamber's media team. With me here today is the head of the Industry and Energy Committee of the Chamber, Mr. Farid Badr, and also our guest speaker, Engineer Ibrahim Radi from JAFCON for Productivity Improvements. Let me take you through today's agenda. We will commence with a welcoming address by Mr. Farid Badr, and then Engineer Ibrahim Radi will take us in a presentation in which he will shed light on productivity and cost efficiency, productivity concepts, the impact of human and financial resources, as well as infrastructure on organization. He will also explain how to calculate productivity ratio, highlight types of waste, and exhibit productivity improvement applications. And then we'll open the floor for your questions and comments. You can type them in the chat box or click on the raise hand icon to address them directly to our speakers. Kindly note that you will have 1 minute to address your question. Make sure you make your questions precise and related to the topic. I would also like to highlight that this webinar is also live broadcasted on the Chamber's YouTube channel. In the meantime, I leave the floor to Mr. Farid Badr for his opening remark.
Thank you, Aisha, for the introductory remarks. And Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. BCCI members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you all. On behalf of the Industry and Energy Committee, I welcome you all to this second awareness webinar. I'm sure you're all looking forward to this virtual meeting like me. But allow me first to share our priorities in the Industrial Committee. We have 3 priorities, 3 goals. First is our job is to protect the industry. And the second is to help you to sustain and succeed. And the third is to help you to grow. As you are knowing that we are facing unprecedented challenges of pandemic crisis. We are all leaders in our industry and know that 20% of things happen to us is outward, we cannot control. But 80% of things happen to us is inward, we can control. And that's one of those things are productivity and cost optimization. That's why we chose this topic. This topic was chosen also because as per our survey, and which we circulated, and 40% of you said we need help in cost optimization. And hence, we chose to bring you the best of the best. The expert, Mr. Ibrahim Radi, with 15 years of experience in this field, who will today shed the light on key productivity, like Aisha mentioned it. Let me tell you about Engineer Ibrahim Radi. He has a master in philosophy in industrial system manufacturer and management from University of Cambridge, and experience in business development process re-engineering. He has completed over 60 projects inside and outside Bahrain. He is a member of Institution of Management Service, Chartered Management Institution, and Institute of Mechanical Engineering. Engineer Ibrahim is co-author for Strategies of Knowledge Transfer. I really advise you to read this book. It is worth mentioning that BCCI are conducting webinars every week, almost every week, in different topics of concern as a part of effort to raise awareness for the private sector and support its members to overcome the challenges that they are facing in this pandemic period, to be more resilient, agile, and create sustainable business growth. So wish you a fruitful and informative meeting, and thank you for being with us today, and do kindly ask questions at the end of the meeting. I'll pass now to Mr. Ibrahim Radi to take us through the presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Farid, for the introduction. It's really a pleasure to be contributing to the committee mandate and vision in terms of optimizing cost reduction in the industrial sector. So I am Ibrahim Rabi, and I would like to take you through some of the ideas today of productivity and cost reduction. So go with the slide. So firstly, a brief of our company. We are JAFCON, being in the management services for the last 30 years, and we have completed more than 720 projects that focus mainly on productivity improvement. We have international affairs, international recognitions and affiliation and partnership with number of organizations that's known for productivity enhancement. Very simple way of calculating and adding value to your organization. So I cannot
And the
see.
presentation.
I'm sorry for this. Okay. So what is a productivity? This simple diagram shows that any organization or industrial firm has their input and resources. They go into the company and produce a product and services to their customer. But in the box of that firm, where the resources are transformed to output product and services, we have the waste. And here is the waste is our enemy. Am I in control? No. So the very small and effective phrase that hopefully if you get out of it, out of our webinar today with good understanding of it, it will really open a lot of channels for cost optimization, which is doing the most with the least. Doing the most with the least. So how would you be able to reduce your input and increase your output, which is an open challenge for all the organization as they are going along. So looking at the And at the formula, you can see that productivity is the output over the input multiplied by 100. So if I give you a question about what is the productivity, how we would be optimize the productivity, okay? If you just want on it on the mathematical formula, we have 4 ways of increasing the productivity. So you either increase the output, but you hold the input, or you reduce the input and you hold the output. Then you have also, or you could be able to increase, and this is the optimal way, to increase the output, but also in the same time, reduce the input. And this is where it could be taking you far in increasing your productivity. In some conditions, we will be ending up, we reduce the output, but we also want to increase also the input, but disproportionately. So you increase much more of the output, but little bit in the input. So diving into the input factors, because cost will be really how we would be able to reduce the input or maximize the utilization of this input. So traditionally, we have manpower, capital, machinery, material, plants, building. These are what we call the traditional resources, that tangible, you can see them. And they have been there for a very long time. In the last 60 years, technology, information, organization system, management style, knowledge become an important input that we need to take care of and optimize. Now, the future, which is already started now, you look at the cyber power, artificial intelligence. These, we call it the macro factors. And these now, in our era, these having now a growing power and growing, importance for our companies to prospect. So to start, what is manufacturing strategy that we are in the industrial for? At the external, the companies, the customer want short delivery lead times. They want low cost, low prices. They want dependable delivery. So if they ask for a delivery at that time, they get their product at that time. But we have also how we will be able to be flexible in terms of our volume and delivery time. Also, one important subject is to have the quality product. So being able to cater for all of this, we call it winning factors or winning orders. Once you have these, identify meetings the requirement of the customer, you would be able to win the orders and increase, the growth of the company. So for the external requirements, you have internal, drivers, we call it. So to address, for example, the short lead time, you should have a setup, procedures to have fast through output. That means speed. You have to have a reliable operation. That means reliability. That you have to be ability to change, agility. That means flexibility. And also, of course, the quality. And when it comes to the cost at the top of the slide, you have to have higher productivity. And this is where the linkage between productivity and cost. So for companies, one of them very important that we could see from our field. So I will be speaking about some of the case study that we worked in Bahrain. So we went for a company, for example, that they do jobs that worth 8,000 dinar, but also they were doing a job for 1 BD as well. So that's give a wide operation from 8,000 to 1 BD, which indicates for us, the owner came to us and say, I am very busy and there is a lot of work going on, but at the end of it, I'm really not benefiting. There is no actual profit there. So we did analysis, what's called job type analysis, which is very simple tool using Pareto analysis into it. So we classify the jobs that this organization does from a company that job order, which is less than 50 BD, job order, which is between 50 and 100, and job order, which is more than 100. And then we saw, we saw the impact of these categories into the profitability and the total income. And we saw that the category A, which is 65, so most of the jobs that this organization getting is less than 50 BD. It's contribute only 50% of the income. Whereas the category B, between 50 to 100 is 15, giving you only 13%. Whereas the 20% category, which is more than 100, giving you the 72%. So having a clear strategy of what you should do and what you should not do is absolutely important in order for you to balance the requirement of cost, reliability, quality, delivery, and dependability that we have spoken to the manufacturing strategy. So our recommendation for this company was to focus and cut off any job that is less than 50 BD. And now this company is one of the very leading company in terms of our industrial fabrication and industrial system. So cost reduction as a strategy that all the companies has to embed is not waking up at the COVID situation and saying now we need to start, the cost reduction journey. No. It has to start, even started before, during, and even after the pandemic. And the journey of cost reduction never ends. Why? Because there will be always a new way of doing things. There will be always a new technologies. There will be a new changing requirements for business. We need innovation. And for that, the cost reduction has to be always going on and going on and going on. Once we have achieved a target, we need to increase the target and move forward. For this, Kaizen is one of the very good techniques, which is very simple, but also can be widespread to all over the employees. And I will be repeating that we always require to involve as much people as possible when it comes to cost reduction and cost initiatives. Why? Because the people knows the nuts and bolts of the operation, because they know how things work. So the more you involve the people, even in the shop floor, we have worked with many organizations and factories at the shop floor, and you can see how good and innovative ideas come from the people itself. So Kaizen is just very simple tool that is more of a concept as well. Make it better. You have a small operation, try to make it better, not make it faster. Try to reduce, use less resources. And very important that this technique is working with the constraint. So all the ideas has to come using our people within our budget and with our equipment and in our place. And you will be amazed of how amazed of the ideas of how things can work in this category. So just a small example. So you can see this this gentleman. He has a productivity of 1 net per minute per worker, because he opened the net and he placed the orange inside it. So in order to increase his productivity, he asked his wife to come and help him. And we end up having 5 nets per minute. Okay, that's mean 2.5 per worker. So we increase the productivity by almost 2 times. But this, we call it the easy way of doing things. Bring somebody in, add some more people, bring us more, machinery. No, we have to think in Kaizen way that we work within our resources. So this gentleman used the Kaizen technique and he invented a small, device that he placed the orange inside, and then it's even increased his productivity to 5 nets per minute per worker. So this is all possible with Kaizen technique. Now we'll talk more about the productivity waster and the non-value added activities. Yes. We found in our companies, not one company, not two, but hundreds really of companies, industrial and non-industrial, also even large firm, that 72% of the activities are actually non-value added activities. People comes and go. People take this product from here and place it to there. People just leave things aside, put it on a side. So the whole activities is really measured on 72% non-value added activities. Let's take it on the positive side that we have opportunity to improve our operation by 72%. 20% activities that required improvement, but we are really living on 8% precision. And this is confirmed in Bahrain with many of our projects, but also outside Bahrain. To dive more into what are the waster of industrial fare. So at the top of the waste is non-utilized talents, defects, overproduction. We call it sometimes the mother of waste, because if you produce more, you store more, you transport more, you have inventory more, whereas is not requirement of the market. But we have also waste of excessive information and communication, water and energy, delay, waste of knowledge. So many type of ways that we have identified that really, reduce the productivity of organization. Some of them are very explicit, some of them are hidden. And this is where we would require to dive into this and understand, having people around us to understand and be the waste detectors and be able to see this waste in the organization. And the very first steps to move forward in order to reduce the waste with this notation. We call it what you cannot measure, you cannot control. And what you cannot control, you cannot improve. And this is absolutely fitting for the waste and productivity and cost reduction. So because if you don't measure, you are really not understand, you have no control of the operation that you are working on. Never mind improving it. So I will share with you some of the techniques of how we would be able to measure productivity. An overall reduction or cost reduction approach that organization can immediately take and use is first is to have cost center identification. So we have an expense, let's say 100,000. Where is this 100,000 goes? We need to understand. Some of them goes for the salaries, some of them goes for the material, raw material, maintenance, spare parts, rent, all of that. So first, we have to identify all of these cost centers. Then we use a technique called 80-20 to identify what we call the vital few. Where are the fat? Where is the most of our cost goes? And thus, you will see a very clear 80-20 rule that very few cost centers really take off the majority of the cost. Whenever you are then, after identifying the cost center, we go with a technique called sequential elimination. And what that's mean? You raise the question that, can I eliminate this cost completely? Can I eliminate this operation, this process? And raise the question very loudly to the people, even to yourself. Sometimes you also, once it's come that you are asking the question, you say, come to realization, oh yes, I can't live without it. Why? Very clearly, because you saw that we have 72% non-value added activities. And from our experience, yes, we challenge entire operation saying, well, you don't need it. And it ends up really, it's not needed. But even if you challenge it and it's not, you cannot eliminate it, then you try to reduce it. Now becoming easier and being even more possible to reduce the operational cost. How you would do that? You have to go on a critical examination technique. We have 8W and 5S deduction approach, looking at the waste, how you would be able to remove the waste and also optimize the resources that you have. And after resource optimization, we could go on the process redigitalization. And we are very familiar with the process re-engineering. But now, all the processes has to be re-engineered in a digitalized way. Because the waste that technology could really chop from the companies is very huge. Just a small example, if you remember 5-6 years ago, when we want to pay back our credit card, we go to the bank, we stay in the queue, and the bank all of a sudden get also closed. Then you go back, and you spend maybe 1 hour doing this job. And by the end of the day, you think that, oh, I have done job, I paid the bill. And now maybe some of them really high-tech people maybe do it in seconds, right? Really second. So see how much is the waste. Is it 70% or 99.9% that the waste is happening? After that, you will be thinking of cost reduction and action plan. So this is an overall approach that I will take you to some of these boxes together. 80-20 rule, which is we call it vital few, is very example from our electricity bill at homes, that 80% really go on the 20% of the electrical devices, ACs, heating devices. This will consume the 80% of the energy. Similarly, if you go to the companies, if you go and see the chart here, you will always see that typical, cost center or graph. 2 or 3 items which observes the majority of your cost operation. Here where you need to focus. Without being able to understand this and break it down, you will always have the bigger problem, my cost is high, But once you start to breaking, you will be able to deal with that individual element in more efficient way. Yes. One of the items that is really increasing in demand, that as a strategy, is to localize the international purchases. Especially with the pandemic, the transportation cost really high. And if you go around, you would be able to buy the product and services here in Bahrain. And we had a very good experience that we work with the Ministry of Industry and Commerce in a project called Subcontracting Industrial Partnership, where we have enabled around 30 small medium enterprise to manufacture locally industrial products for the large firms that you can see their logos in the screen. And this project was, I would say, very, very successful. You can go on. We were targeting 12 products. We end up manufacturing 400 products in Bahrain. And we said very clearly, this is very much possible. So these products were imported outside Bahrain, okay? And now they are manufactured in Bahrain with the same specification, with the same reliability. But really what came on as a surprise for us, that some of products, their cost end up being less than the international purchase by 98%.
That's very important.
98%. So out of this 400 product, the average was 60% in terms of reduction in cost. So we are doing well for ourselves, we are doing well for our economy by localizing our international purchase. But here we required a shift in the mindset of the companies. Unfortunately now, we always have customer care department, right? If you go outside, like for example, a company, Motorola, for example, in Malaysia, I have visited them and I was seeing this is very vividly that, you know, they have a department called supplier care department. So actually they work with the supplier to reduce their cost. And I raised the question, I said, why you are giving all the support for the suppliers? He said, I can see their cost as extension of my cost. And here where we need this mindset in our manufacturing and also our all Bahraini firms. Try to work with the supplier, maybe you have a better understanding of the cost, work with them, and by the end, you are going to be the beneficial out of the equation. This is not a theory, this is a practical, and you can see these products and services in the Ministry of Industry and Commerce are represented.
Mr. Ibrahim, actually, I have a story about that. After you finish, I will share with you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Layout optimization, some industrial companies grow in an organic way. So they start with machine here, another machine there, another machine there. So unfortunately, later on, once you want to produce one product, as you can see here, it goes everywhere in the factory. Go here, do some job. If you can see this chart, the red is operation, where the arrow is transportation, the green shape is temporary storage. So you can see that this, which is a real factory in Bahrain, going around and around and around the factory until it's finished. It takes around 1 month. It takes really around 1 month. But once you dive into how much does it really being processed is half an hour. So Having production lines or arranging the layout could really reduce a lot of, we call it, hidden costs for the organization. So after that, we really organize the layout and having production lines for each product that's really increase the productivity and also reduce the delivery time. But how doing it? We have specialized, not very specialized tool. I mean, it's very much attainable once you think about it. For example, this pipeline technique. So you look at how is the production steps you have and what is their capacity. You will start ending up sometimes having overcapacity in some of the operation and lower, or what we call it, the bottleneck. And how you will be able to smooth out, because if we can't go and see this diagram, if you produce 50, then the 60, you have already lost capacity of 10 units per hour. But the third operation, actually, it will go only 30 units. The 20 units will be what? Temporary storage and non-value added activities, staying on the floor. How you go around it? You need to align this pipeline and to have very smooth operation and capacity within the production line you have. Not only production line, even the processes itself. So in this pipeline, you can have units, you can have people, you can have customers, and see the capacity and how to adjust. So 30 maybe not the optimal way, is also depend on the market needs, your customer requirements. Another technique we have, we call it the zigzag technique. It's a very simple technique that really identify every single step in that factory. And we see whether this is an operation, which is a value added activity, or it is a transportation or temporary storage or pyramid. And the more you see very clearly, if I ask you which one is the inefficient process, you will easily identify. The more zigzag, that means it's more going and coming. That means that this is an inefficient process. And once this study, this very simple tools apply, for example, once we just map the processes we have, immediately 20% productivity materialization you will have. And because you say, why we are doing this and why we are doing that? Another technique, as again, very, very simple, call it workplace optimization, 8W and 6Ss. And if you go on this factory or many of our factories, this is very typical pictures you can see. There is scraps here, there is machines that's not working here, there is item which is not attended. So we have this as workplace optimization, as to go and with following certain step, you would be amazed of the output of this. It's very simple technique that costs almost nothing in its implementation. So you will have cost reduction, space utilization, money generating. So in one of the companies that we work with, actually in their financial statement, they have income from work optimization. In their financial statements. I cannot really recall the number, but from the financial statement itself, because you will have a lot of resources lying down here and there. Another example, for example, in one of the companies that we work optimization, they have dysfunctional machinery. Okay, so we dismantled one of the machines and we took the spare part, we fixed the others, we painted them and we sold them. And that's give, income for the company. And the stories never end in workplace optimization, if you go back. And most of these ideas come from the shop floor people, involving people, their ideas. You need to have what we call the platform system, that people could bring ideas. There is a mechanism for reward. There is a mechanism for pushing the ideas. There is a mechanism, a setup for listening to the people involved. And also very important to be cost conscious. So for this company, for example, we gathered everybody. We gathered the workers, the chief executive, the managers, and we talked about this. And once that is actually by themselves, ideas and more cost optimization come on board. Process digitalization. Again, this is a company that we work in. You can see we use a technique called cross-functional chart. And you can see this number of steps of going and coming, going and coming. And you can see on the right side, the processes now, when it's come to technology, you can really reduce that heavily and get rid of a lot of steps which is not necessary and non-added value activities. How you could do that? Another technique, we call it critical examination. So you can see this chart now. We literally identify every single activity that is happening, and then we identify whether it is going to add value or not. But what also you can do, you can identify the distance, the time, the quantity, and also cost for every single activity. And then you will be able to identify where is the cost of that activity and how you could be able to improve. At the same tool, this one, you will also be able to take an action of improvement. So this tool goes at a sequential elimination again. The very first question, can I eliminate this step? And if I cannot eliminate it, can I combine it with another technique, another step? Then can I improve it, reduce it, for example? And if this is not working, can I change the sequence, place, person, or technology in order to improve this step? And this is just an example. You can see we have chipped off all major processes in this activity. So now I will be talking a little bit about energy as well. So as you can see, that the increase of energy and water rates is literally almost double when it's come to the electricity for the industrial companies. It's starting before 2016, it was 16 fels per kilowatt, and now it's 29. Whereas the water is really more than double. Is really more than double. So it started with 300, now it's 750 fels. So how we could reduce the energy consumption? What is the mindset? What are the tools and technique for that? People. The very first thing that we need to cater for, as I say, close the holes, then pump the water. So companies has to start with energy conservation measures, then going for renewable energy. And there is a lot of opportunity in this domain. This is an example from Etihad that in this company, in this building itself, they reduce 80% of the energy consumption by retrofitting. And we have here in buildings and building of factories that you can reduce 80%. What does mean? That we are wasting 80% now of the electricity and consumption. And everybody unfortunately shouting that, increase. Yes, there was an increase. But if your holes are open and you allow the electricity to just dismantle this way, that's absolutely, going to affect your income. So in that domain, there should be a huge emphasis. There is a lot of opportunity. Actually, according to the lead, which is American Green Building Council, that 92% of the energy that we are consuming building are not necessary. The importance really lies down into the design of the buildings. So how you will be able to firstly design, then how you be maintain and have the right materials. So looking at to this in more detail, in a building, you could start with a technique called building sustainability audit. So looking at where the energy goes. And here you have 4 main or 5 main domains. First thing, you have to look at the building envelope, the roof insulation, wall insulation, windows insulation, and you have to have the lowest U value possible in terms of insulation. Then you look at the lighting, cooling, and heating, which is the electromechanical. Then you look at the water consumption. At the last, you look at the adding renewable into the equation. So again, we close the holes, then we pump the energy, then we pump the water into it. So huge, cost opportunities is in this domain. Going more, not in the building, but in the industrial. I know, I have seen example, Mr. Farid, that we use electricity to waste electricity in our industry. So having system in the industrial companies that look after industry, that look after energy is very important. Like now we have a lot of ISO quality management system. I really advise all the industrial firms, to go for the energy management system ISO 5001, because that will set up a platform or a system to continuously looking at where are the energy losses and how we can improve the energy consumption. It's never ending journey. Why? Because every day we have a new technology. Every day we have different techniques for energy conservation, different ways of doing it. So another standard that companies would look at is ISO 5002, which is energy audit standard. So having energy policy, looking at them, the legal requirements, and then conducting an actual energy audit. So in some of the companies that we have worked in, amazing is before electricity was not very much of a concern, but now, so that's why it is it's good to lose energy. But that's, I would say bad legacy came on board here now. And it is, again, it's very clear that once you run an audit, opportunities are very ample for cost optimization and cost reduction running through an energy audit. So there was a planning for energy audit, data acquisition, site visit, data measurement, and reporting, and then you would have your action plan. And this is absolutely going with the famous BD AC cycle that you can see in the screen. After having the energy audit, you may go for the placement, which is another technique using the renewable energy system In Bahrain now, we have the right legislation, the law of net metering, which is really giving a lot of opportunities for companies to adapt. And it is very much at this stage now, after the reduction of solar system components like the panels, inverter, they have been reduced, their cost being reduced by 70% almost in the last 2 to 3 years, making it very much feasible and viable for industrial companies with the high energy tariff. So you could look at a payback period 6 to 8 years in this domain, but also another facilities, another laws is coming on board, making it even more attractive for the industrial companies to implement this technique. The way forward. I have stated in my presentation that the impact on the organization performance is coming 64% from human assets, 20% from infrastructure, and 16% from the financial resources. So where should be the focus? There should be the focus on the human resources. But unfortunately, maybe some of the CEOs will look at the numbers, and the chief financial officer is the closest person. So it's actually reverse. This impact on cost optimization follow exactly the same impact. If you get the people involved, you will end have 64% impact on cost once the people are involved. And we had very successful stories in this domain, having the people working together and empower them with cost reduction techniques and productivity concept, and they really give you a huge opportunity for cost reduction. A very simple, real example, we worked with Tamkeen in a program called Iqtidar. And actually the concept of this program is to bring interns that they have zero expertise and bringing them into 14 different companies. Some of them are international companies. And they saved 1.5 million dinar.
Oh, really?
These are not the employees. These are just the fresh graduates coming, and they were empowered with tools and techniques in order to reduce, improve the processes and reduce cost. So can you just imagine that these are fresh graduates from outside knowing nothing about the company? What about empowering the people itself? So you can. So seek having internal cost optimization professionals in the company, and don't limit them to a certain number or a department. No, they have to be widespread as much as possible, because everybody knows the nuts and bolts of his processes, her process, and the opportunity lies into that. So we work with many companies that you can see their logos, with equipping their employees with a certificate called Productivity Improvement Practices, PIP. The theme of it is doing the most with the least. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Engineer Ibrahim. A lot of ideas to digest, and I will just highlight some of the important points. One is this cost optimization, and you mentioned about the Kaizen technique. Change something or you make something better to optimize. Second thing, you talked about the mindset shift, inward looking, go localized, and supplier care, which I will share one example about that. Third, you mentioned about conservation of energy. Actually, I really emphasize on this. You know, you have to stop the bleeding first, then you have to start doing something else. And this is what's, we need more awareness on that. There is a lot of talk in the market about renewable energy, but nothing about conservation of energy.
Absolutely.
The fourth thing you emphasized, the importance of human resources, which you gave us some figures. The 64% is the importance of human resources. Let me just share about this third point. The mindset shift, inward, localized, and supply. You know, during the pandemic situation, my people came to me and said the supplier cannot supply one of the items which we used to import from UAE. So, you know, the supply chain were affected by this. So I said to them, go locally and look for it. He said, nobody can do this. I said, no, you go and look. So we went and sat with the supplier and we helped the supplier actually to bring the mold from outside and to manufacture according to our specification. Now, what happened here? Two things happened. One, we got the cost, we got it cheaper and it was available to us, and we helped the manufacturer also to go into a new production and have a new line of business and increases revenue.
A revenue implication on the manpower, employing more revenue as multiplier
Exactly.
effect.
I think we can have many stories. Now we will open up, Aisha, for questions. I think you have some questions. Please, if you take us through those, and Ahmed can answer.
The camera.
Sorry, Ibrahim.
Yes.
Ibrahim.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Ibrahim, for sharing your perspective and giving us actually a very objective perspective on cost optimization, stressing on engaging people and the importance of innovation. There was a comment in the chat by Dr. Eileen, if I'm saying the name right. She also reiterated on something that you said about getting people engaged, raising the awareness and the consciousness of people with regard to cost optimization. Yes, now we will handle the questions. We have a few in the chat. Yes, we have a question from Hamid Halwachi. He thanked you for the job you did for them, and he's asking particularly about the hotel sector, given the difficult times that we're having. In your opinion, how can we help our industry at least up to the end of this year with regard to cost optimization and in light of I think he means the difficult times we're encountering due to the coronavirus pandemic?
In terms of hotel sector is very much energy, intensive. So how there are different measures or technologies when it comes to place, the HVAC components. So you look at the heating, you look at simple cost reduction or energy conservation techniques. So adding renewable into the premises of the hotel, and also look at I would say manpower manning or manpower planning. It's easy for all the organization to just leave or fire people, but maybe you go on different measures on how you would be able to reduce using, unpaid leave, because the sector is really impacted. So again, looking at a specific sector, please go and map out the cost centers you have. Where is the money going? And look at the individual component and have a critical examination of how I would be able to reduce that cost. There is multiple ways of identifying, but going holistically like this, or I have, an issue with this and have a problem, it will just make stress more on you and your organization.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Ibrahim.
There was a question, Ibrahim. They say now, before the pandemic, I had 80% capacity. Now my production has gone down to 50%, maybe more, less, 40%. What am I supposed to do now with my people? I don't want to get rid of them. How can I utilize those resources? What am I supposed to do now? My expenses are high, my revenue is low.
Yeah. Actually, this pandemic had the major shift now. Before, a lot of manufacturing companies depend on the market or the local markets. With the presence, really high presence of technology and outreach, now with the internet, with having peoples around these technologies, now you could look at the whole global is moving into a delivery. So you would be able to tap now to any different, local or international market. So in order to offset the reduction of your operation. So having a very strong marketing campaign that is really not very expensive, but you have to have it a smart way. Having the right, not social, but professional, internet technologies, outreach, LinkedIn. And now you can talk with anybody, like what we are now talking, having this workshop. People are now normalized with the new technologies. So they will expect now a manufacturing in Bahrain doing shipping into the United States or UK. So
let's say even because the orders are not there, the market is down, especially in the construction sector. So what supposed to do with the manpower liabilities we have?
As I said, you could have many different sort of manpower planning. So having some of them 1 month, on leave, utilize the leave system. So whoever have leave, take the leave now in this position. Also, take it on creative way. I would say try to look at niche market. For example, if you say construction, that construction company take the flag that I will build sustainable buildings, okay? That I will build very efficient houses. I will build, for example, automated houses. So never only just look down and try just to do the easy way of cost reduction, take off the people. Actually, huge that this is a report in UNDP saying that in Bahrain here, we suffer a lot in terms of productivity because the easy way of sacking people and changing the manpower, size you have. Because what has happened, you have a project to bring people. You don't have a project, take off the people, easy. But no, once you have a project and you have a lot of manpower, now the economy went down, but you have a lot of people and you have to have a lot of people, you end up innovating.
Correct.
Because you are under pressure.
I agree.
And once you are under pressure, you try to bring the new ideas. You try to bring the new technologies. You get the people involved. So this is actually should be taking us, I will give you a figure, Mr. Farid, that before the pandemic, the productivity of the manufacturing sector is 50%, 54%. We have measured them. And they were 91% profitable. Okay, and what does that mean? That they waste half of their resources, but they are again profitable. So at this situation, still you have 50% utilize. But going for the easy way of cost reduction is absolutely not advisable. This is go again with our recommendation, get people involved. Get people involved. They will give you an ideas. They will, promote innovation in the workplace.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions?
Yes, we have some comments. Right. We have some comments on stressed sectors. What to do with the most impacted business activities given the pandemic, such as the beauty salons and beauty parlors, kindergarten. What could they do to optimize costs?
Actually, I'm not really into that sectors. We're talking about the industry sector now, but the approach is not change. Look at the cost centers. Where is the money going? Try to break out down the cost you have. Maybe some of them go for a shared economy. So bringing, for example, this salon. Yes, I don't have many customers, but I will share it. For example, the premises with our, makeup or other vendors to use the place. This is called now shared economy. Look at whoever wants to use all the facility, you could rent it for some days, for even hours, for different facility. So let's try to be innovative into, our business approach and business strategies.
Right.
With regards to, you mentioned create a platform to innovate within the company and provide a reward system. Can you give us an example on that?
Well, we have worked with many companies. I would be able to name many actually, but some of the companies have a department or one person who is looking at productivity improvement, okay, specialized. And what is this person does? He doesn't work on his individual capacity. I mean, they have a specialized, some of the organization does this, 2 or 3 people, they are the cost expert, they are the product process re-engineering expert. They have a limited capacity. So they could do 1 or 2 projects at the same time. But once you have one center department or one center champion that he coordinates with all the other departments, all the other individual to spread this concept. Now people will come and say, okay, I have an idea. Okay, you have an idea, we have a setup for it. I will receive your idea, you document it, make a proposal, very simple proposal. What do you require? Then the ideas goes on and becoming fruitful for the companies.
We have provided a box within our company and every month. So the incentive is if you give us a good idea, you get 10 dinar.
Absolutely.
So they put in the box. Every month we open the box and we see the best idea get something. So that you encourage them to innovate within the company.
Absolutely, Mr. Farid. Absolutely right.
Any more questions? Anybody want to do any comment from the audience?
Yeah, we have a raised hand.
The raise hand? Yes. Jean, you have anything to say? I think you raise your hand. Ahmed Al-Ali.
Ahmed Al-Banqali.
And Muhammad Al-Ali, we have.
تسمعوني؟ السلام عليكم.
عليكم السلام أستاذ أحمد. تفضل.
أولاً, I would like to just to apologize that I entered very late because I was on one of the site and I just saw the advertisement on our BCCI website and I just entered. Actually, thank you very much for this presentation, and I have a small suggestion. Previously, gentlemen, we were having, for example, Mr. Farid, he is a contractor, and I am a contractor. And it was
Sorry,
an
I'm
easy.
not a contractor, Ahmed. I'm an industrial manufacturer.
Yeah, industrial manufacturing, but I remember maybe you was working in the construction section, but I cannot recall. Anyway, previously, we used to have some sort of cooperation between all the contractors. For example, sorry, if I have a job in one site, sorry, if I don't have a job in any other site for my manpower, what I do, I go to, for example, to Farid or any other contractor in the same line of mine, and I lend my employees to him to work in his site in a place that they are sitting without a job. It is really an easy to get rid of the employees. It will be the first step to be taken by the employer, but that is totally wrong. We need to return this, what we call, lending my manpower to another construction company to work in their company in a place of that company employ new employees, and that will increase the number of the employees, and that will increase also the number of outlaws of the employees. مثل الفيزا مثل الفري فيزا. That's what I am suggesting. This practice, it was stopped by LMRA. Now we need to return that practice.
Ahmed, sorry, I have to cut you here. But this is nothing to do with our topic. You know, we are talking about cost optimization of industries, manufacturing. We want to talk about how can we be more agile, more sustainable. If you please have any ideas, any questions about how can you utilize your resources, please go ahead. But if it's about free visa and this and that, this is not our discussion.
Can I just comment on that one, please? Just let me finish.
And 1 minute, please. 1 minute, please. Go ahead.
See, in 1 minute, أجيبها لك على طول بالسرعة. احنا كان عندنا مصطلح ان انا اقدر اوفر عماله مالتي اعطيهم مقاول ثاني يشغلهم عنده. هذه انا قاعد الماي ريسورسز اللي استخدمه ما دام عندي اكسترا مان باور اعطيها مقاول ثاني بدل ما يروح يجيب مان باور من خارج البحرين.
ممتاز.
بهذا الاسلوب انا اقلل الكوست مالي، وفي نفس الوقت هذاك بدل ما يجيب مان باور ثاني من برا ويرفع الكوست ماله فاخذ من البحرين واشتغل. هذه الشغله وقفتها علينا وزاره هيئه اللي شو اسمها ذي مالت العماله الاماريه وقفت البراكتس، قالت ما يصير تحول من عندك الى شخص ثاني. امس نزلوا اعلان انه لا يحق حق اي صاحب عمل انه هو يوفر عماله من عنده حق اي شركه ثانيه ما لم يكن عنده تصريح بشركه من باور سبلاي. وحاليا لا توجد حق هذه الشركات الا شركتين فقط في البحرين اللي حاصلين على هذا الامتياز، وحاولوا اكثر من شركات عندنا في البحرين ان يطلعون هذا الامتياز الى اليوم هم معطينهم اياه. هذه جزء. انا من رايي الحين من دور الغرفه ودور الاستشاريين في يعني اللي يشتغلون على هذه المواضيع انهم يبتدون يغيرون في القانون اللي حاطته هيئه سوق العمل لالغاء هذا الشرط. مو الغاء، خلينا نقول نقننه ونعدله بطريقه منظمه يكون موجود. يصح لي انا اعطي عماله اللي عندي حق فريد، وفريد يصح لي اذا انا محتاج من عنده يعطيني العماله اللي عنده، على اساس ان احنا نخدم بعض. هذه بتكون خدمه جدا حتى حق الفنادق. اليوم مساء الاخ شو اسمه الحلواتي سال سؤال، ما حتى حق الفنادق يمكن عندهم من باور اكسترا يقدرون يعطون الفنادق الاخرى بعض من العماله مالتهم ولا يحتاجونهم يسترجعونهم. بهذا الاسلوب اعتقد بتقلل المصاريف.
من خلال لجنتكم ممكن هذه بعد تقترحونها.
هو ممكن صح فريد، بس احنا نبي الحين ما دام احنا في هذا الحوار، خل بعد يطلع توصل هذا اللقاء للغرفه انها تدرس مع هيئه سوق العمل هذا الموضوع. يعني خصوصا متضررين اللي اكثر شيء العماله المتضرره هي المقاولات، وايد متضرره في هذا المشروع. ولما تطلع من عند العماله وبعدين الحين الفيزا المرينه خلتهم يطلعون فقاموا يشتغلون كل واحد لحسابه، كل واحد طلع عامل صار مقاول. فلذلك لما احنا نسوي ذي الشغله نقلل عليهم الموضوع ونصك عليهم الباب. شكرا.
وصلت الرساله، مشكور، ما قصرت. جين بليز. Yes, please, go ahead. John, unmute.
Okay, all right. Done.
All
Well,
right.
Ibrahim Radi and Farid Badr, thank you very much for this presentation. I think that as well, JAFCON know what's happening in the market and has great solutions. Thank you very much for all the good advice that you have given. And what I wanted to highlight, exactly what you said, it's not only about cutting costs, cutting people, see where you can reduce. You can only do that. You need to have a good digital system, ERP system, whatever it is. And as you mentioned correctly, that's what I want to highlight. It's all about people. We have done a lot of reflection sessions with top management teams from actually quite big companies in Bahrain and outside Bahrain. And the C-suites, after we have done some reflection, the main things, if we want to optimize, survive, and be successful in the future and reduce cost, cost is actually people and IT. That was what I wanted to share.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have Muhammad Al Ali. Unmute, please.
Thank you, Engineer Ibrahim, for the presentation, and Mr. Farid.
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, better.
Yes. Thank you, Engineer Ibrahim, for the presentation, and Mr. Farid Badr for the session today. I really appreciate it. About one point you suggested about for companies to actually try to utilize excess capacity. There is a portal in Export Bahrain. If you go to exportbahrain.com, you can access a tool. It is called, I'll just tell you now, it is called Export Potential Mapping. It is a software where you can put your HS code and it can give you globally where is your product in need or where is the biggest market for your product. So this was just to clarify this, and this is a very interesting tool. Not many people are aware about it. Now, my question to Engineer Ibrahim is, I am from the manufacturing sector. One of the issues I have in evaluation of my efficiency and productivity is actually non-quantitative jobs. For example, the production, the manpower, the output, it is very easy. It is machine related or output related. But the jobs, for example, our QC or QA employees, how do I evaluate their efficiency and their productivity? Because their job is not output related. Their job is more qualitative than quantitative. So when we have quantitative positions, what are the methods or the ways to evaluate our productivity in these departments?
So for this qualitative jobs, there are different tools that is related to job evaluation and job, job evaluation and manning level. So in the HR domain, there are set up. For example, at JAFCON, we have a system called the scanner system. So it scans the job itself and see what is this job content in terms of qualitative competencies that you require. And then we add rating to this. So for example, let's say that this job content required, for example, communication or required calculation capacity, numerical ability. So after this, identifying these competencies, these competencies get rated by professional companies. So then you will end up having from qualitative to quantitative measures. So, for example, we are asking companies to come and do this sort of assessment and having understanding the job evaluation, then see also what we call the manning level. What is the requirement for this job? How much is capacity? needed. For this also, so this is a scientific approach of going through it. Other approach that you may think about is multi-skilling. At this time, you would be able to train other people to do different type of jobs. And this is reskilling is going to be a very big subject, especially with the changing into how business are being performed in this, digital era. So maybe you will be able to have this QC, for example, handling also purchases, for example, being a quantity surveyor, for example, which is related to these jobs. So he will be able to perform even more into that.
So if we don't have anything, just before that, I would like to say that please do communicate with us and inform us what would you like to hear, any subject which is important to you, like in 3 priorities which I mentioned: protect the industry. There are laws and available, or there are resources available maybe we are not aware of, like today Muhammad Al-Ali mentioned one of them. I was not aware of that, to be honest. So it's good information. So raising awareness to protect you is important. The second one, to help you to succeed. We can do workshops. This is one of them, cost optimization. Another one could be digitalization, other things we can do in terms of the motivation of the staff, or how to increase productivity, how to be agile, how to find new markets, how to be creative. And the other one, which you mentioned also, I think very, very, very important, the opportunities in the downstream industries. You identified 400 products which we can produce in Bahrain. I think we should pursue that.
Absolutely.
We should pursue that, and we can imagine we can create 400 industries. How many jobs we can create? Huge.
No, it's
really
ample.
I'm going to take it to the next level, I think, with the board of directors of BCCI, and perhaps to take it to the minister and try to do a project.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much for attending. I'm sure for me it was very informative and very interesting, and a lot of learning, and I'm sure it's for you all. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
We will end it here. And
Thank you.
see you soon.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Bye-bye.
I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who joined us today and enriched our webinar. Special thanks to our guest, Engineer Ibrahim,
Thank you.
and also
We'll give him a word.
and also Mr. Farid.
Just a token of appreciation to you,
Absolutely.
Mr. Ibrahim.
Thank you very much.
Just a token of appreciation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.